Good evening. It's Thursday, the 29th of December, and it's time for the news on RIK2. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a ceasefire between Syrian opposition groups and the Syrian government starting at midnight. The Kremlin statement came after Moscow, Iran and Turkey said they were ready to broker a peace deal in the nearly six-year-old Syrian war. The Syrian army announced a nationwide halt to fighting, but said Islamic State and ex-Nusra Front militants and all groups linked to them would be excluded from the deal. It did not say which unnamed groups would be excluded. Several rebel officials told Reuters they had agreed to the ceasefire plan, but there was uncertainty over which groups were included in the deal. Talks on a ceasefire picked up momentum after Russia, Iran and Turkey last week said they were ready to back a deal and adopted a declaration setting out principles that any agreement should adhere to. Putin said Syrian opposition groups and the Syrian government had signed a number of documents, including the ceasefire that would take effect at midnight on the night of December the 29th to 30th. The agreements reached are, of course, fragile, need special attention and involvement, but after all, this is a notable result of our joint work, efforts by the defence and foreign ministries, our partners in the region, Putin said. He also said that Russia had agreed to reduce its military deployment in Syria. The United States has been sidelined in recent negotiations and is not due to attend the next round of peace talks in Astana, capital of Kazakhstan, a key Russian ally. Its exclusion reflects growing frustration from both Turkey and Russia over Washington's policy on Syria. However, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the United States could join the peace process once President-elect Donald Trump takes office. Russian authorities said they had not ruled out that a terrorist act could have caused the crash of a military plane into the Black Sea on Sunday, but said it was only one of the theories under consideration. There was no explosion on board, said Sergei Benetov, the Russian Air Force's head of flight safety, who heads a government commission investigating the crash, which killed 92 people. But this isn't the only type of terrorist act, Benetov added, as it could have been any type of mechanical impact, so terrorism cannot be ruled out. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said Israel's building of settlements on occupied land was jeopardizing Middle East peace, voicing unusually frank frustration with America's longtime ally weeks before he is due to leave office. In a swiftly issued statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accused Kerry of bias. He said Israel did not need to be lectured to by foreign leaders and looked forward to working with President-elect Donald Trump, who has vowed to pursue more pro-Israeli policies. In a 70-minute speech, Kerry said Israel will never have true peace with the Arab world if it does not reach an accord based on Israelis and Palestinians living in their own states. Kerry's remarks mark the closing chapter of a bitter U.S.-Israeli relationship during President Barack Obama's administration over differences on settlement building and the Iran nuclear deal signed last year. Ties reached a low point last Friday when Washington cleared the way for a UN resolution that demanded an end to Israeli settlement building. Kerry said that the United States had appealed to Israel in public and private to stop the march of settlements countless times. Kerry's remarks and Netanyahu's reply marked the closing chapter of a bitter U.S.-Israeli relationship during President Barack Obama's administration over differences on settlement building and the Iran nuclear deal signed last year. Netanyahu said Kerry obviously dealt with settlements and barely touched on the root of the conflict, Palestinian opposition to a Jewish state, in any boundaries. In a statement, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said he was convinced peace with Israel was achievable, but stood by his demand that Israel halt settlements before talks restart. Netanyahu, for whom settlers are a key constituency, has said his government has been their greatest ally since Israel captured the West Bank and East Jerusalem in a 1967 war. A pro-Islamic State group urged supporters of the jihadists to carry out attacks on targets such as markets and hospitals in Europe over the Christmas holiday period and urged Muslims to stay away from Christian celebrations. The threat came as European authorities have stepped up security following an attack claimed by Islamic State in which a truck ploughed into crowds in a Berlin Christmas market and killed 12 people this month. The Nashir Media Foundation, which backs Islamic State, posted its message online, accompanied by images of fighters with guns and knives, Santa Claus, reindeer and a Christmas tree. The online message to Islamist lone wolves in Europe said that their celebrations, gatherings, clubs, markets, theatres, cinemas, malls and even their hospitals are all perfect targets for you. It said Islamic State would replace their fireworks with explosive belts and devices and turn their singing and clapping into weeping and wailing. The message reminded Islamic State supporters of a call earlier this month by the group's new spokesman, who said they should also attack Turkish consulates and embassies. 2 men were arrested in Madrid on suspicion of spreading Islamist militant propaganda. Police released video footage that showed officers uncovering gun magazines and bullets from under rocks in a disused building covered in graffiti in the outskirts of Madrid. They uncovered 4 Kalashnikov AK-47 magazines and over 30 bullets, but no weapons, the ministry said, adding that the arrested men were Spaniards of Moroccan and Gambian origin. Separately, 2 women who travelled to Syria in 2014 from the Spanish North African enclave of Quetta were arrested in Turkey as they attempted to return to Europe. Spain has arrested 177 people in connection with Islamist militancy since 2015. The Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe has been the target of a cyber attack. The French newspaper Le Monde said a Russian hacker group was behind the attack, but the OSCE, a security and human rights watchdog, said it did not have the capability to investigate the report. A spokeswoman said that the attack was discovered in early November, adding that a new security system has been installed. An unnamed Western intelligence source quoted by Le Monde attributed the hacking to the Russian cyber espionage group known as APT28. The same source told Le Monde that the group was also behind attacks on the U.S. Democratic Party leadership during the U.S. presidential campaign. The spokeswoman said the OSCE was aware of speculation that APT28 may be behind the attack. Hollywood legend Debbie Reynolds, who sang and danced her way into the hearts of millions of moviegoers around the world in musicals like Singing in the Rain, died late yesterday. She was 84. Reynolds, one of the most enduring and endearing Hollywood actresses, died hours after being rushed to the hospital in Los Angeles after suffering a stroke. Her death came just one day after her daughter, the actress Carrie Fisher, died of a heart attack. Reynolds, who rose to stardom in the film Singing in the Rain, appeared in dozens of films. She starred opposite Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, Tony Curtis, Donald O'Connor, Fred Astaire and Dick Van Dyke. In a 2010 interview with Rage Monthly, Reynolds reflected on her philosophy of life. "I always go by a 5-year plan," she said. "I get through today and I'm not going to get upset for the next 5 years. Now for the weather forecast. It will be mostly cloudy tomorrow with local rain showers and snow over higher ground. Winds will be moderate to fresh, mostly southeasterly, becoming strong in windward areas, force 6. The sea will be rough. Temperatures will reach 12 Celsius inland, 13 in coastal areas and 1 over the mountains. The snow on Mount Olympus is 50 centimetres with 40 in Troodos Square. That's all from us here. Join us tomorrow for more news in English. Have a very good evening.